Hello and welcome to An Old Man Watches. And today I'm going to be talking about Life on Earth. And Life on Earth is a natural history documentary series. It was produced by the BBC, British Broadcasting Corporation, in the late 1970s and aired in 1979. And when it was released, over 40 years ago, it transformed its writer and presenter, David Attenborough, into a British cultural icon and also became a direct antecedent of dozens of subsequent series covering the natural world. Over the course of its 13 one-hour episodes, Life on Earth outlines the evolution of different forms of life on the planet, from the very earliest single-celled organisms through to the modern day. It does this in a broadly chronological order, covering simple creatures like sponges and jellyfish in the first episode, then moving on to the first invertebrates, and then to modern plants and insects. From there, it dedicates an episode each to fish, amphibians, reptiles, and birds. Finally, mammals get no less than 4 episodes, one for marsupials and early mammals, one for modern herbivores and carnivores, one for primates, and then the final episode is all about a shy and retiring species known as humans. Now, as I said, this is a show that is over 40 years old, and so not all of the science and information included in it remains up to date. Despite that, Life on Earth remains a hugely admired and often imitated work of documentary television, and it is thoroughly worth your time to watch. Let's talk about why. So first off, I think it's really good to see a nature documentary series that recognises that humans are a part of the natural world, and assesses us in much the same way that it does any other animals, albeit in more detail, given that we get a whole episode to ourselves. Of course, given that human biomass exceeds that of all wild mammals by a factor of about 8 to 1, we are a very significant factor in the world, and that's not even factoring in our livestock, which has almost twice the biomass we do and brings the ratio up to nearly 25 to 1. By many metrics, we are currently the most successful animal species on the planet. By some metrics, the most successful living species of any kind. But, as Attenborough was already pointing out 43 years ago, that success is not guaranteed to continue, and our achievements may paradoxically come to be the very thing that most threatens us, with the risk of resource depletion and climate change. And yes, in case anybody listening has any doubt, human-caused climate change is a real thing, and arguments about it being unproven are as specious of those as those against the proof of connection between cigarettes and lung cancer were once upon a time. Secondly, if you've watched all of these videos, and you probably haven't, but if you have, you might recall that in the introductory video I posted right at the start of doing these reviews, I talked about how stories and storytelling are at the heart of human experience. We tell ourselves stories constantly, inventing narratives to provide structure and coherence to what are often simply, random events. In writing Life on Earth, David Attenborough has recognised that instinctive human desire and accommodated it. Despite being a documentary series, there is a very clear narrative through line here. The first episode covers the earliest forms of life, then each episode after that progresses through the next stage of complexity of life and, to a certain extent, history. This is not a paleontological show, mind you. It does, it does everything through forms of life that are still existing in the world, things that it can show you on screen. It recognises that it is a television program and that television is a visual medium, but it still gives you that structured narrative approach. It's a really smart approach to making the show, and it gives Life on Earth a clear narrative structure that helps the audience to follow along. It's very smart work. Finally, and again, 40 years of history has gone by, and that 40 years has seen technological and technical developments in filmmaking that are far beyond what was possible when this series was being made. But for its time, Life on Earth was hugely innovative in developing special new techniques to obtain footage of rare and elusive animals, and in the degree of effort that was undertaken in the pursuit of that footage, sometimes hundreds of hours dedicated to just capturing a few seconds of footage. This approach and this dedication really paid dividends. The show was the first to ever feature footage of a live coelacanth, for instance. I hope I pronounced that right. I probably haven't. It's a type of fish. And it captured the dynamics of bat flight to an exceptional level of detail. Those are just a couple of examples. The show depicted things that people had simply never seen before, and it properly contextualized those images before it showed them. It is fundamentally just an absolute masterclass of documentary filmmaking and a thoroughly fascinating show to watch. If you've never seen Life on Earth, it is worth seeing. It really is. It's an exceptionally well-made piece of television. And, Blue Planet and Blue Planet 2, which are much more recent shows, also narrated by Attenborough, very much in the same mould. If you can't bring yourself to watch something that's 40 years old, check out Blue Planet, which is only about 15, or Blue Planet 2, which is only about 5 years old. Much more modern, but very much in the same image as this original progenitor of the approach. So that's Life on Earth. Next time, we're going to stay in a similar production time frame, but a very different kind of show. It's 1986 science fiction schlock, Eliminators. But that's next time. Until then, thanks for watching this video, and I hope you enjoyed it.